All right, people, back with the Red Zone Room podcast. Today is our fantasy episode. We're probably going to be sticking on the AFC side just because we have so many players we want to talk about. We're basically just going to go through kind of just division by division. Just is there a player we want to talk about on this team? We have a list of about 25 players we want to talk about, whether they're sleeper, bust, just kind of their fantasy value, how they compare to their ADP, stuff like that. But let's start off in the AFC South, and might as well start off with the Colts and Jonathan Taylor, who seems to be talked about a lot. There's a lot of people high on him. There's a lot of people low on him. Tailgate, what is your opinion on Jonathan Taylor?
So I think for most of the podcast, at least, I'm going to refer to players as either I love them or I hate them. And it's all going to be solely based on their ADP. I mean, some players I may have, other thoughts on them, but Jonathan Taylor, he's one of those players I'm just staying away from him. I really don't want anything to do with Jonathan Taylor this year, especially with the new news about Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz going down. That really hurts him, just because I think the offense isn't going to be able to function as well without Carson Wentz, and you lose a major piece, probably the best offensive guard in the NFL in Quentin Nelson, which is a major blow for the run game. But take that out of it, honestly. Jonathan Taylor is still in a backfield with Marlon Mack and Nyheim Hines. If they were fully committed to Jonathan Taylor and they felt like he could handle 25 touches a game, they wouldn't have signed back with Marlon Mack. He's there for a reason. And honestly, that to me just scares me away from him. I'm just looking at, the rankings of all the players right now, and players who are going after Jonathan Taylor, like Zeke Elliott and Nick Chubb, just for running backs. I'd rather have them, in my opinion. I'm not that high on Jonathan Taylor this year. And that's coming from somebody who had Jonathan Taylor last year. I just think first round and mid to early first round's a little too high for him.
What's his ADP right now?
6. So it goes McCaffrey 1, Cook 2, Kamara 3, Henry 4, Barkley 5, and then Taylor 6.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's way too high. I think let me see I think I have a list of my fantasy running backs when I was ranking them, but I think he is more near like the end of the top 15 to me. I don't think he's a top 10 pick. I would take at least 10 running backs over him. Because
and again, when we talk about like what round you should pick them in, we're going to assume that you're in like a 12-person league, because that's like the stock amount of people normally. So like an early second round pick would be like picks 13, 14, 15, like something like that, just for, reference.
Oh yeah, here's my list. So I would take, in no particular order, I would take McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, Henry, Saquon, Chubb, Zeke, Mixon, Eckler, Gibson, even Najee Harris, and Chris Carson over him. So that's 12 guys I would take over him.
I don't know about Chris Carson, but maybe Mixon, but like the rest of us,
as a Colts fan, like I worry about we could not care less about, like, I don't know, like we tend to use, like, we're running back by committee. I'm worried Hines is going to get his touches. Marlon Mack's going to get his touches. I'm not saying it's going to be like 50-50 between those two. Hines will be the passing down. Taylor won't have much passing down volume work.
And especially in PPR, which like 90% of people play in. I mean, he's just not going to.
I think
Hines, doesn't Hines get the red zone opportunities mostly too?
That's what I'm saying. It's just going to be all over the place. He's not going to be able to be trusted. He's going to have his good weeks, but being drafted in the first round, I think it's just not, even maybe the second round. You can't trust him, especially with the injuries that just happened. We're probably not going to be as good of a team now.
Yeah.
But, all right, well, let's go to the Jaguars. The Travis Etienne, James Robinson situation.
So I loved James Robinson last year. I picked him up in a few leagues. I love James Robinson. He was like my one untouchable player on like most of my leagues. I think he's going like the 9th round right now, 8th round. For a bench stash away, it's not a bad idea. I'm very neutral on James Robinson this year. I do love Travis Etienne, though. Travis Etienne's camp notes right now are saying that he is like unguardable. Like they're speaking that highly of him. And the Jaguars wouldn't have spent a first round pick on him if they didn't want to feed him the ball. So I think ETN's going to be a guy that's going to get 15, 17 touches a game. James Robinson's going to get like 9, maybe 10. I'm more like, if you were to tell me, would you rather draft ETN in the 6th, 7th round or James Robinson in the 9th round? I'm going to take ETN 9 times out of 10. I think ETN's the guy. I think he's better in the pass game. They actually spent a draft pick on him. Remember, James Robinson wasn't drafted. I like ETN this year. And I think the relationship between him and Trevor Lawrence is going to be used well. I think all signs are pointing towards Travis Etienne being the guy.
I pretty much said exactly what I was going to say, honestly. I don't have anything to add. So, Titans, I think Ryan Tannehill is – what's his ADP?
Tannehill, hold on. Give me a
Because
second.
I'm pretty sure his ADP is somewhat low for where I think he could possibly finish as a top 6 fantasy quarterback.
For quarterbacks, he's 10. For overall, he's 76. So right around like the 6th, 7th round.
Yeah, that's when I use, like, for my fantasy, I don't like taking like those top tier guys like Mahomes, Allen, Kyler, whoever.
Kind of crazy. Deshaun Watson's going as 127 right now.
Yeah,
so that's like
I'm staying away. I'm staying away from Watson.
Yeah,
but I think Tannehill could have a top 6 fantasy finish, and I would have no problem with snagging him in one of those late rounds. Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry. He's top 5 pick, PPR or not PPR. And what's Julio's ADP?
Julio, 46. I know that for a fact. It's 46, 43 now. 46. So he's the 12th wide receiver. But for Tannehill, I don't love him. I like Jalen Hurts I like more. Matt Stafford I like more. Baker Mayfield I honestly like more than Ryan Tannehill just for their ADP. So you could probably convince me on Matt Ryan. Kyle Pitts, Russell Gage, Calvin Ridley, and Mike Davis out of the backfield in a defense that isn't very good. Matt Ryan's going to have some big weeks. I may like him at 109 more than Tannehill at 76 3 rounds earlier. So I'm not huge on Ryan Tannehill. I mean, if you're looking at the board and Tannehill's falling to like 85, 90, then yeah, I'd snag him there. But I don't love him at 76.
Well, I mean, who are the other?
Julio goes, I love Julio at 43.
Who are the other guys there around Tannehill's round ADP?
Right around, so 2 picks before him, like the 2 guys before him are Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, and the 2 guys after him are Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. Kind of a fall off, not gonna lie, just like for quarterback skill, but for fantasy, it's all pretty relative.
I might rather have Tannehill out of all those guys.
No, I take Aaron Rodgers. Pissed off Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers is.
I'd probably take Brady too. But Brady doesn't have the run game to worry about. You have to worry about Derrick Henry in the red zone. I mean,
Brady's a safe guy. Like he's not.
But then again, Brady's not going to have to sling it this year because his defense is sick. Tannehill has an awful defense.
Like Brady will never screw you over in a game. He'll put up decent numbers, but he's never going to go over the top. His
score is going to be like 18. Like he's not going to put up much less than 18.
Yeah. Well. And then
they're very similar. Brady's 72, Tannehill 76. I mean, they're both very similar players. I just think I'd go back and forth, honestly.
I think if I get to those late rounds, I got no problem taking Tannehill there.
I have no problem taking Jalen Hurts at 79. No problem with that whatsoever. And I honestly, I bet he goes later than that. I bet he'll probably go at around 90.
Know. He's been getting a lot of hype. I think he's going to be taken earlier.
I don't know. I'm not on the Jalen Hurts bandwagon. I wouldn't say I'm that far, but like I wouldn't mind him as my late round starter or high end backup.
Oh, he'll be a starter. He's in most top 10s. He'll be a starter.
He's 12 right now.
I've seen him.
But I think my favorite draft pick is Matt Stafford. That's my favorite pick. We'll get to him in the NFC. But my favorite pick right now at the quarterback position is Matt Stafford.
I have Stafford ranked right up there.
Him at 13 is stupid.
Yeah, no, I have Tannehill and Stafford at 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I'm staying away from Watson. That was the only Texan that's relevant.
Yeah.
So let's go to the AFC West. Start off with the Chiefs. Obviously, there's a lot of people in the Chiefs that have fantasy value. Mahomes, his ADP is too high every year. I never want to take him. I never want to waste an early round draft pick on. I mean, the people who took him last year got screwed with like his injury and stuff. Not like he was. I mean, where did he finish as QB? Like, it couldn't have been top 5 or anything.
I'd have to look it up.
And I'm not saying he's just going to get injured, but I'm not a guy that likes to take quarterbacks that early. So people always take him.
Finished at number 4. So I'm guessing he probably finished at 1 for average.
Yeah.
Yeah, for average, actually, Dak was 1. I'm not going to count Marcus Mariota because that was 1 game. So he was 2 for average points per game, if you want to count Dak Prescott.
And then I think Kelsey and Hill are both safe end of the first round picks. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think I could tell you guys I like Travis Kelce, but I don't know if I'd personally be able to pull the trigger on him because you'd probably have to go like Austin Eckler in the first round and then get Kelce in the second and like Ram Jones, Travis Kelce, something like that. I don't know. I don't love Kelce. Tight end is one of those positions I just really can't pull the trigger on in the first round or the second round.
That's why Kelsey's a good choice though, because he's so far ahead of any other tight end that it's such a big advantage.
I like Darren Waller this year.
But I'm saying Travis
really
Kelce puts up top tier wide receiver 1 numbers, and there has to be every team needs a starting tight end. That's 10 to 12 teams, whatever your team
It
has.
wasn't that crazy though. Kelce averaged 20 points per game. Darren Waller averaged 17 and a half.
I'm not saying Waller's not maybe pretty close to his tier, but I'm saying, I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking Travis Kelce at the end of the first round because it's a huge advantage. And I'm not just going to say, oh, well, just wait till Waller's there, because I'm sure half the league is thinking that.
Yeah, would
So
you rather
you're saying you're not going to
Kelce?
you're saying you wouldn't take Travis Kelce at the end of the first round?
No.
If he was a receiver, I probably
Would you rather have
wouldn't.
Travis Kelce at 8 or George Kittle at 26? So like your third round
That's
pick.
what I'm saying though. Here's what I'm saying is it's risky to sit there and wait for Kittle or Waller because the whole league is thinking that. So if it snakes back to you, Kittle and Waller just got taken, boom, you're stuck with a crappy tight end.
I would not be too mad about Kevin Kyle Pitts at 45. They're feeding him the ball in training camp. I know it's
saying, that's your strategy. That's fine. That's strategy. Everyone has a different strategy, but I'm saying there is no issue with taking Travis Kelce into the first round.
No, it's not crazy. I just don't know if I'd personally want to do it. That's why I prefaced it by saying I could definitely see myself saying to you guys, like, yeah, I think he's a good pick at the end of the first round. But I personally, my draft style, I would not pick him there. But you could have a sick draft going Kelce there, and then going like Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler's second round, third round, come back around and get, I don't know, Allen Robinson, and then you can quickly go out and get Josh Jacobs, like Chris Carson, something like that, and you can have a sick draft. I'm just saying I would much rather settle for a guy like Kittle. You say settle, but I'd rather take Kittle in the third round or Kyle Pitts in the fifth round or something like that. That's just me.
Well, Clyde Edwards Solaire, I think, is a big time sleeper. Obviously, he was pretty much regarded as a bust last year because his ADP was so high. He was taken at the end of the first round or beginning of the second in most leagues. He was expected to be this huge breakout guy. He produced pretty well up until when they signed Le'Veon, and then obviously his work got cut in half. It was kind of, he didn't really see too many like red zone carries because of how many running backs they had. And his touches weren't the best because obviously there's Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce on the team. I think this year his ADP is low enough to where he's being super slept on. Le'Veon Bell's not there. He's going to be the bell cow guy. Now, obviously, Mahomes and all those guys are still there. They're still going to be pass heavy, but he is going to get PPR. He's going to get some catches, and he is there. He's going to be their guy at running back. I think he's not. I have him. What I have him at like RB 16. I think he could be a sleepy or a sneaky guy and sneak into the top 10 for a fantasy finish.
Yeah, that's not crazy. What I'm using right now is Fantasy Pros. I mean, I've been using them for years, and they're usually like they're very reputable. They have them at 14, so again, not too far off. I hated Clyde Edwards last year. He was being picked at the first round. I could not convince myself of that. So, I'm still a little wary of him, but I mean, all signs are pointing in the direction of him having a good bounce back year. Like you said, I think the offensive line's better. No Le'Veon Bell. And hopefully if he's fully healthy, he'll be able to get into some stride, I guess. He's going right around Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, and David Montgomery. I know I would take Antonio Gibson and Joe Mixon and Swift and maybe Montgomery ahead of him. But again, his potential is through the roof. This guy could be sick. He's in the best offense in the NFL, or second best. But I don't know. I really don't know. I can't really form an opinion on him. It sounds really lazy, but I can't. I really can't. He's very tough because I feel like he didn't have a rookie season. Like I feel like he didn't really I don't think he busted. I think he just got hurt. He was playing on like a torn
Yeah, that
something.
too.
He was playing on some injury for like half the year, which is something you definitely need to take into account. So would you draft him at 25, which is like early third?
Yeah. I mean, it depend. Obviously, would depend on what running backs are there, but that's a good spot for him, I think.
If you ever pick between him and DeAndre Swift, who do you take?
I have him 3 spots above Swift, so I would go CH.
Okay.
All right. Chargers. Herbert's obviously up there. I think Keenan Allen is a top 5 fantasy receiver. I mean,
Another year of Keenan Allen being underrated.
yeah. I mean, he's not being talked about at all. I've seen him like at the end of the top 10, sometimes even being left out of it. I mean, that connection between those two was ridiculous last year. Nobody really talks about it. Like for fantasy, those guys were one of the best duos out there.
And now Hunter Henry's targets are being vacated. I mean, they didn't really bring in anybody. So no, I love Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's one of my favorite fantasy receivers. Like every single year, he's one of my favorites. So I'm very high in Keenan Allen this year. He's going at the wide receiver 927 position. I would take him right around there. I don't know if I'd reach on him. Like, I don't know if I'd take him at like 20, but I think if you have anywhere between 23 and obviously anything later than that, I would take Keenan Allen, and I'd be pretty confident with him being your low end mid wide receiver 1 to like a very high end wide receiver 2. I think he's really good. I really like Keenan Allen.
I also
Defense is
love.
bad,
Yeah.
so they're gonna be giving up a lot of points.
I also love Austin Eckler because I mean the guy's always a PPR monster. Talked about the vacated targets with Hunter Henry. They loved using their running backs last year. Obviously, Eckler was hurt most of the year, but he's a guy that the volume is going to be through the roof, and it's all about that volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think honestly one of the best things, if you have like Austin Eckler in Dynasty or something, one of the best things that could have happened last year was seeing Austin Eckler go down. Not obviously not that, but seeing the running backs who replaced him play so poorly. I mean, if you're the Chargers, you're not going to be trusting Justin Jackson or I don't even remember what Joshua Kelly. I mean, you're not going to be trusting those guys with the ball. You're going to be giving Austin Eckler a pretty heavy load this year. So I love Austin Eckler. I think he could be a pretty, I'd say a high end running back 1. Honestly, I think he has a lot of potential, especially because, when you look into that second running back 1 tier, if that makes any sense, you have like Zeke Elliott, Nick Chubb, Eckler, and then Najee Harris and Aaron Jones. He's the best and far and away the best receiving running back, which in PPR is obviously, as we all know, just such a luxury. So I think he can be Alvin Kamara and put up similar numbers to him, and Kamara's being drafted at 3. So I love Austin Eckler this year.
All right. Well, Raiders. We talked about Waller. He's a beast. He's one of the only targets. He's the only. Yeah, he's the only one that I want anything to do with on the Raiders. Especially they lost Aguilar. I think they're gonna have to pass a lot more. Even though they did sign Kenyon Drake, which by the way, I don't really want anything to do with Jacobs or Kenyon Drake, unless their ADP is like super low or something.
It is. Josh Jacobs is going as the 20 running back. 37 overall. See that's the thing. I mean,
I have him at RB24. So,
would you rather have Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs?
I don't know. I have them right next to each other.
Josh Jacobs, it's not even that close. Miles Sanders, if I were to make a list of like the top 5 fantasy players, I want nothing to do with Miles Sanders. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, and then you skip it like 1,000 yards, and that's Miles Sanders at 1. I want so little to do with him. The Philadelphia Eagles explicitly said that they're going to go by committee and that no running back's going to exceed 10 touches.
Yeah.
Like they literally said that. That's not like a beat report. Like they said that. Yeah. Miles Sanders sucked last year and he was injury prone with a bad offense and no offensive line. What makes you think he's going to be any better this year?
I mean, I wasn't a fan of Sanders.
Yeah. So like he's going ahead of Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, there probably is a few guys ahead of Jacobs that I'd rather have Jacobs over. So
I'm not too afraid of Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake wasn't good last year.
What's his ADP?
Kenyon Drake?
Mm-hmm. I think he's a guy he's
106,
probably
39 running back.
Yeah, 39. Like I think
Zach Moss, James Conner.
Yeah, I would.
93.
Drake's a bit of a sleeper. I think you could get Drake that late in rounds. He's going to be one of the best options there. He's probably going to get his touches. They signed him for a reason. He's getting his touches.
He's going to be their third bench player.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's about all the players I care about talking about from the AFC West, unless there's any Broncos players. Javonte Williams is kind of tough to evaluate, but I mean, I think he's going to end up being that RB1.
He's going at 65, RB25 right now.
Pretty fair spot. So
yeah, so right behind James Robinson, right ahead of Chase Edmonds. I would rather have Chase Edmonds though.
I would not. Edmonds is not doing a damn thing this year.
Edmonds is the RB1. Javonte Williams is gonna split with Melvin.
What on James Conner?
It's James Conner. Are you kidding me? I'm not worried about him.
You're not worried about James Conner affecting Chase Edmonds' touches?
James Conner.
Are you serious? Where's James Conner's ADP?
I gotta scroll for a while.
Edmonds is not the RB1. No way.
James Conner's going at 38.
And Edmonds is what?
Edmonds is 26. So 12 spots higher.
I think that's a 50-50 backfield right there. And Kyler Murray's back there too. I don't want anything to do with either one of those two.
Yeah, like I'm not saying I draft, but like Chase Edmonds is probably going to go in like the 6th or 7th round.
I mean, I don't see him having much fantasy value at all.
I wouldn't be because of how
Javonte Williams is the guy where I feel like obviously he's in a 50-50 right now too. I think he ends up who knows, maybe Gordon gets hurt, but I mean he's in a
50-50 with a much worse offense and a much worse offensive line. And I'm one of those guys who I go by the offense a lot. It's just proven that higher power offense would be better.
Javonte's ceiling is so much higher than Chase Edmonds, though.
Of course. We know that Chase Edmonds can catch the ball with PPR, and now there's no Kenyon Drake, and there's a washed up James Conner. And it's a better offense.
I mean, the Cardinals have bottom 5 running backs in the league. And they're all they're just a whole group of like below average running backs that I don't think are going to be any help to your fantasy team.
I'm staying away from Deontay Williams. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, let's go to the East. Go with the Dolphins. I think Miles Gaskin's a very popular sleeper for everyone, and I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that. He's absolutely no competition for touches in that backfield, and he's going to
Yeah,
get
they
his
spent a
touches.
draft pick in the 7th round on a running back, so obviously they like him. Unlike what the Jags did with Travis Etienne and James Robinson. But I like Gaskin. I think Gaskin's good. He's being picked at 46 right now, RB 21, so right behind Josh Jacobs, right ahead of Mike Davis. When we get to the NFC part, we're gonna have to do like a 10-minute segment on how much I love Mike Davis. I mean, I
Yeah,
could see myself picking him in like the 4th round.
we'll save that one though.
I really could.
What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say, dude.
Miles Gaskin.
Oh yeah, I had him. I had him last year, and he was my flex, and he was probably the best flex in the league until he got hurt because he was a pickup, so he wasn't one of your top 2 running backs most likely, but he was putting up high end RB2 numbers well before he got hurt, and I see him putting up high end RB2 numbers this year too.
Yeah, Gaskin was good. He went through a stretch where he didn't put up a game less than 10 or 9 fantasy points. I mean, I'm sorry. He didn't have one game less than 9 fantasy points. He had 10, 14, 14, then 9, and then finished the season 20, 16, 13, 14, 34, 17. I mean, they
Very high
weren't
volume.
afraid. They weren't afraid to give him a heavy workload either. He had 2 games over 20 carries, 3 games over 18. 4 games over 18. He, as we all know, he was very active in the receiving game. He had his targets were 4, 7, 5, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, and then 2 because he got hurt, and then 5, 5. I mean, he didn't have a game less than 4 targets. I really like Miles Gaskin because he's going at the flex position. You're not gonna have to spend like an RB 1 or 2 pick on him. So I really like Miles Gaskin, and I think he's one of those running backs where if you have like a wide receiver heavy team, I think getting him in your flex would be really good because you could have like a low end RB1, a low end RB2, and Miles Gaskin. I think he's like a very low end RB2. But he has the potential to be a high end RB2. Honestly, I like Miles Gaskin a lot.
What is Damien Harris ADP?
My guy Damien Harris, it's low. It's not very high. He is going at 89, running back 34. So right behind Trace Sermon, right ahead of Ronald Jones, and right ahead of Travis Etienne. I don't know why Etienne's going so low. Etienne should be going right around Mike Davis, which is at 51. I think he should be going 40 spots higher, 4 rounds higher. I don't know why he's going so low. But yeah, Damien Harris is going at 89, which is unbelievably low.
I think Damien Harris can be a solid RB2, top 25 running back for fantasy, in my opinion.
I can't get there though. I can't.
Are
I
you
still think
worried about touches?
I'm worried about a lot of things. First of all, if Cam Newton's the quarterback, we all get concerned about Chase Edmonds because Kyler Murray's a running back. We get worried about J.K. Dobbins because Lamar Jackson's a running back. Well, we should get worried about Damien Harris because Cam Newton's a running back too. So, it's the fact that they drafted Ramondre Stevenson in the 4th round. They still have Sony Michel for another year. I think they still have I'm a Patriots fan. This is awful.
James
I'm saying
White.
this. Still have James White too. And look, I mean, they signed like 8 guys in free agency, and they're gonna demand touches, and that's gonna take away from Damien Harris, who is already a guy being deprived of targets as he's not very active in the receiving game. So you're really like, if you play honestly, it's very specific, but like you're gonna rely on those 100-yard like if you have a bonus for getting over 100 yards in your leagues, you're gonna have to rely on that because like he's only going to be active in the run game. With a
Yeah.
crowded backfield, and a quarterback who runs the ball a lot, and an offense that is very unpredictable, and they have a ton of pieces on offense. I love Damien Harris as a player. I love Damien Harris as a Patriots fan. I don't love Damien Harris from a fantasy perspective.
I think he'll be efficient enough to have some value. But yeah, James White's there, Sony Michel's there, Brandon Bolden's there, Ramondre Stevenson's there, and Cam Newton's there. So
Yeah. Look, I think it's gonna be one of those things where we're gonna see Damien Harris get like 17 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown, and the next week he'll get 6 carries for 30 yards. Like I really think it's gonna be one of those things where he's very boom or bust week to week.
mhm.
personally. Like I'd rather have Ronald Jones at the same ADP, Travis Etienne, as we've said so many times, in that EDP. And honestly, I'd take Kenyon Drake 2 rounds later over Damien Harris.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. But Michael Carter of the Jets is a guy that I love. ADP.
His ADP. Oh my god, I can't even find him. He's very low. Just he's very low. Oh, he's going at 80. So 9 picks higher than Damien Harris.
This dude's gonna be a workhorse. What competition does he have for touches? Tevin Coleman is his competition for touches. He's also been one of those guys that people have been raving about in training camp, saying he's taken all the reps with offense one. So I think his ADP is a little low. I think I'd take him a little higher than his ADP, but he's a sleeper. They improved. It's also not the same Jets as last year. They're still going to suck, but that they improved that offensive line a little bit in the offseason. Maybe Zach Wilson would be better than Darnold, but I think the volume is going to be there for Carter, so I like Michael Carter a lot.
Yeah, no, I think the Jets overall got better, and that's going to definitely help the running back most. I think Corey Davis is going to open up the offense for them. And he's going to be, the other side of him is going to be who else is there? Oh, I'm blanking right now.
There's Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder.
That's what I was thinking of. I just think that the offense is going to be pretty wide open, and you're right, they did fix it. They improved the offensive line over the offseason. So,
dude, the
Jets aren't going to be a top 15 offense or anything, but like,
listen to the Jets wide receivers: Jamison Crowder, Corey Davis, Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying those are 5. Like, who the heck is going to be the starters? Like,
I bet it's probably going to be Corey Davis, Crowder, and I'd say Elijah Moore.
And then, you still got Mims there. Keelan Cole probably won't start, I guess, but that's not a bad receiving core.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
I do think
Michael Carter's a lot of above average guys, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant on Michael Carter though, because look, Tevin Coleman's on a big name, LaMichael Perrine's on a big name, but there's still guys that are going to take carries away from him
there's one backfield where there's not another guy that's going to get touches, and there's more than one. There's like the Derrick Henry, the
Christian McCaffrey,
the Dalvin Cook, but obviously besides the top 5 or 6 running backs, every single running back, every single team there's going to have a crappy guy like Tevin Coleman that you think is going to get touched. Like, I'm trying to think. Like Mike Davis is, once again, we'll save that for the next podcast. But like, once you get out of those top 6, 7, 8 guys, Mike Davis is like the only one that there's not anyone back there. Like I said, Gaskin was not competing with touches with anyone, but obviously there's a few running backs that got a lot of touches last year when he was hurt. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I'm not worried about Tevin Coleman taking. He's going to get maybe his 3 or 4 carries, but.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets take their time with him because of how young and raw their team is. But then it's a running back, so I don't know.
Running back's different.
I know. I think Michael Carter's going to be one of those guys where I'm going to monitor him, and if he falls, I'm going to pick him, but I don't think I'm going to pick him as ADP. I don't love him at 80, but I think I'll love him at like 90, 95. That's kind of where, because they may sound crazy because like earlier in the draft, if I tell you like, that's a 15 pick difference. It's not like Dalvin Cook is going to go from 2 to 17, right? But later in drafts, guys fall. Like guys will just completely just plummet because at that point in drafts, your league, all the players and all the people in your league, they're gonna be looking for different positions. So if the whole league stocked up on running backs and Michael Carter is just falling, there's a very good chance he could fall 95. And at that point, yeah, I could see myself taking him. But it'd be really hard to convince me that Michael Carter is 13 picks better than Travis Etienne and 16 picks better than Ronald Jones. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't think I can get there with him.
All right, well, let's get to the Bengals or the NFC North. Start off with the Bengals. Got a lot of people on that team. What's your opinions on Mixon, the receivers, Joe Burrow?
Oh, Mixon. Oh, Joe Mixon. Look, where's Mixon going? Mixon's going at 21. He's going at RB 13. I can't. It's one of those things. I just can't get to Joe Mixon. Again, I feel like I've said that 1,000 times this podcast, but there's a lot of guys that I just can't get to, and Joe Mixon's one of those guys. It's a crowded offense. Giovanni Bernard is still there.
No, he's not.
He's not? Where is he?
No, not on the Bengals.
So then who's in the backfield?
Nobody.
Oh.
That's why I like Mixon this year.
Samaje Perine.
Yeah, that's one of the worst backup running backs.
They're getting Jonah
There
Williams
is
back.
going to be no competition for touches. And they've come out multiple times saying they want to get him the ball 20, 25 times a game.
They've said that. They say that every year, though. What do you think? What do you think about him?
I think his ADP is very accurate.
Yeah, I think so.
I would, once we get those top 10 running, I have him at RB11. Once we get like those top 10 running backs out there, then Mixon's there, I have no problem taking him. Obviously, he's always been a question mark, but that volume, there's no denying that volume's going to be there. He's going to get a lot of passing down work now that Giovanni's gone. He's a 3-down back now, which he hasn't been in the past, even if he's always been getting a crap ton of carries. And yes, the O-line's still bad, so he's probably going to, the yards aren't going to be high, but he's going to get those catches and passing down work, which I think is bigger than usual. And I think that offense is way better than it used to be. Even if they didn't fix their O-line, they're going to be in the red zone a lot more with those receivers and stuff. He's going to get more red zone chances. I think his ADP is accurate.
So would you take like Devontae Adams in the first round and then take like Joe Mixon in the second?
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have a problem doing that. What I'm
trying to say is like, would you want him as your RB1? Because he's not been drafted as one, but he's not that far off.
He wouldn't need to be your RB1 because
realistically, you can probably go like Derrick Henry and then wait a while and then take him in the second round.
Yeah, his ADP is low enough to where by the time he's being taken, every team already has a running back, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By 21, yeah.
So, yeah. But I love Burrow. I think he has a great chance to have one of the highest number of pass attempts in the league because of how bad his defense is and how great his receiving core is.
And the tackles are better. I can't stress that enough. The tackles are better this year.
I think Burrow is going to have a great year. I don't know what to do with the receivers. It's too crowded for me. I don't know what fantasy value they're. I mean, they're going to be good. I think it's just going to be.
The one guy I'm staying away from is Tyler Boyd. Get away from Tyler Boyd. When T. Higgins came onto the scene, Tyler Boyd's numbers went away. So now with Jamar Chase, they're going to go away even more. Stay away from Tyler Boyd. I don't care how low his ADP is. It's probably over 100. I'm going to look it up. But his ADP is probably over 100.
I think the Bengals receiving core is going to be compared.
95.
It's going to be like the fantasy impact is going to be like the Steelers last year, where it's like you don't know who the hell is getting the. Deontay would go off one game, then Claypool would go off. You just don't know what the hell you're going to get. So I mean, you could throw them in your lineup.
Actually, have it down to a T. You literally have it down to a T. Juju is like Tyler Boyd. They're both the veterans. Chase Claypool's the rookie, like, oh my God, Jamar Chase, and then Deontay's like the second-year guy, like T. Higgins. Literally the same exact thing.
Yeah, so I don't know about drafting.
And both can be pass heavy.
Yeah. All right. Well, go to the Ravens. I think first of all, Rashad Bateman is a good pick. I like him. I think he'll have a great year. J.K. Dobbins is obviously the big name. Personally, I think he's overhyped. I think he's similar to Jonathan Taylor. I think he's an efficient running back. He's going to have a good year, but I don't think what's his ADP? It's gotta be super high.
Rashad Bateman's going at 166.
Yeah.
So he could be like an undrafted guy. And he's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. So I know wide receiver 1 in Baltimore has less impact because it's Baltimore, but still, I'm getting JK right now. I still think he could be really good. JK is going. Oh, I'm looking at wide receivers right now. Hold on. He's going at 31, running back 16. So we've been talking about these guys all podcast, right around Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards, Solaire, Swift, Dave Montgomery, and Miles Sanders.
I don't know. I think that website is not the most accurate, to be honest. I don't know.
Really?
Because in my opinion, what I've seen is Dobbins all over TikTok, at least multiple Instagram posts. I've seen Dobbins ranked as a top 10 running back, which I think is up there. Not like because I've seen Taylor at 6, and I've seen Dobbins at like 9 or 10, which I think is way overrating him. I personally have him at RB 14. And I just think he's just sketchy because he'll probably get to pass it down work, but Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards are going to get their touches. He's not going to be this bell cow breakout guy that I think a lot of people think. Once again, I think he's a good running back. He's going to have a solid year, but he's a part of a three running back committee.
But it takes the top 4 like fantasy pages like ESPN, CBS, Fantrax, FFC, and it just takes the average of it. So wherever their ADP is. So I think it's pretty accurate. And I hate him at 16. Or for RB 16 at 31. I think Lamar Jackson's still going to be a beast. I think that they're still giving the ball to Gus Edwards. I don't know. J.K. Dobbins is a phenomenal running back. I just don't love him as, I don't know.
But I don't think he's going to have the touchdown volume either. I think Edwards and Lamar are the red zone. I just don't. He's sketchy to me. I don't have a problem taking him. Like if he had 7 there later,
games.
But
he also never went over 15 carries. That's the other thing people aren't realizing.
I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah, like his carry numbers will go after the bye week because before the bye week, he was like a backup. After the bye week, so week 8, 15, 12, 5, 15, 11, 13, 14, 11, 13. I mean,
that's not going to change.
You want your RB2 to be averaging 12 carries a game? And that number will probably go up to 15 because it's going to be his second season. But he only went over 100 yards twice. And he's majorly depending on running backs. He's one of the most touchdown dependent running backs in the NFL. 9 touchdowns in 14 games. And remember, most of those were as a backup. So you could pretty much cut that number in half. 9 touchdowns in like 7 games. That number is bound to go down. Excuse me. Because they're going to use Mark Andrews in the red zone. They're going to use Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman. They're going to use Lamar Jackson himself in the red zone. I don't love J.K. Dobbins as RB31. Like, I don't love him any more than Joe Mixon or David Montgomery or any of the other guys that he's going around. J.K. Dobbins, to me, is a guy that you want to steer away from.
All right, well, going over to the Steelers, I think Najee Harris is a borderline top 10 running back. The volume is going to be insane. I don't really care how efficient. Maybe his run block is going to be 32nd ranked again, but that dude is going to get 25 touches a game. He's going to make something of it. He is the only guy in that backfield that will have touches, passing down work, whatever you want to call it. He's going to get his work. He's going to get his fantasy points. I think he's a very high-end RB2, like one of the best RB2s. Maybe RB1, but yeah.
I can't get there, but I think he is one of, if not the best RB2. At first, I hated him. At first, I'm like, oh my God, Najee Harris in the second round, like, come on, get out of here. But then you think about it more and more. You think about the production, you think about the volume, and if there's anything that fantasy football proves, it's that volume correlates into production. And when you have a player who is as skilled as Najee Harris, that volume is bound to go into production. Now, I haven't brought it up at all this podcast because honestly, frankly, I think it's one of those points that it's kind of like a moot point. It's like, I don't think it's that strong of a case, but Najee Harris does have the 5th easiest schedule for any running back which can be, as we saw with David Montgomery last year, second half of the season, can be very juicy. Najee Harris is he's RB11, going at 15. I'm very comfortable taking him there. Like, I'm very comfortable going Zeke Elliott in the first round and then taking Najee Harris in the second round. Like, that to me is one of the best running back tandems you can probably have in fantasy football. Either like him or Eckler, I'd say, is probably a more realistic back-to-back. Even Nick Chubb. Like if you can get those two, I think Najee Harris is gonna be great. Do you think they're gonna rely on Ben a lot this year, passing the ball?
I mean, I've heard a lot of rumblings in the offseason that they're trying to transition to a run-heavy team, which is
Perfect.
who
Because
knows?
I'm gonna check out the depth chart right now just to
I
see.
mean, I'm sure their defense is going to keep them in tight games to where they're not getting blown out or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So,
Benny Snell. I mean, it's
yeah.
and that's another thing. So one of the issues that you may come with is like, okay, Ben Roethlisberger's washed. You know, that might be a merch thing. So watch out for that. But like, you maybe say, okay, Ben is washed. The Steelers are gonna suck. The offense is gonna be bad, but their defense is gonna keep them in games. So Najee Harris is never gonna be written out of the game script. It's never gonna be like, Steelers are trailing 34-7. That's never gonna happen. Their defense is gonna hold them. It'll be they're trailing like 3-10 or 3-13. Like, their defense is going to keep them in games, which is huge for fantasy football. So there are so many points going in favor of Najee Harris. You have no competition in the backfield, a pretty solid offensive line, not great, solid. Quarterback's not that great. Great training camp reports. Defense is going to keep them in games. I mean, they're already transitioning into a run-heavy team. I think there are a lot of things going in favor of Najee Harris this year.
Deontay Johnson, also a guy I love on the Steelers. I mean, I had him last year. He was a little inconsistent because he dealt with a lot of injuries.
I thought he was actually very consistent. I gotta check. I thought he was consistent.
No, I mean uh, it was like a lot of like games above 15 points. But he every once in a while he'd sneak you a 2 or 3 point performance. And honestly, I think 2 or 3 different times though it was because he got hurt in the first quarter.
Yeah, I'll just
But
go
that
through.
happened to me like 3 times where I threw him in my lineup and he got hurt and didn't play again.
There's a
But
lot of teams here. 29, 14, 23, 23, 12,
yeah,
21, 8, 20, 21, 12.
he was that dude. He was one of the most underrated receivers last year. Nobody talked about.
That 8-point game is when he got hurt. Like, he averaged
Literally, nobody
nine and
talked
a
about
half
him.
targets a game.
I think he's gonna break out a lot this year. Be that a wide receiver one for that team, and I'm sure his
Claypool's
ADP.
definitely a worry, but I don't think that Claypool's going to have. I don't think he's going to get in the way that much. I like, if you tell me right now that Deontay Johnson's targets go down from 9.5 to 8, which is very realistic if they want to make more of an emphasis on Claypool, then fine. 8 targets a game is, I think, still top 10 in wide receivers, like targets per game. I mean, he's going at, I think it's right around 40 for his ADP. I'm very comfortable taking him there as my flex. 55. He's going way later than I thought. Wide receiver 23, going right around DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk. I would take him above all those guys. Maybe not Ayuk. I might take Ayuk because I'm really high on Ayuk. He's going 7 picks after Deontay Johnson. But for his ADP, I love Deontay Johnson this year. We're talking about production and volume. He has the volume. And say what all you want about his hands. He's still a possession receiver, and he's good after the ball, after the catch. So I like him a lot this year.
All right, well, there's one last player on the list, and that's the last team, the Browns. I think the only one I cared to talk about was Nick Chubb. He's kind of been all over the rankings. I've seen him as high as RB6 and as low as RB12 because people can't make up a decision. People are worried about like passing volume because Kareem Hunt's there, and obviously Kareem Hunt's going to get his carries too, but that was no problem last year. I mean, I'm pretty sure Nick Chubb finished, I'd say, close to the top 5, and he was hurt for what, 6 games.
For
Touched
4 games.
It was 4. His
4.5 because he only played the first quarter.
his touchdowns. I mean, his just volume. You can talk about Kareem Hunt because obviously Kareem Hunt, he would probably get 8 to 10 carries a game. Chubb's still getting his 15 plus carries, and he makes the most out of it. His yards per carry super high, obviously. I don't really understand all the, because last year I would have said the same thing. Kareem Hunt's there. I didn't really want to draft him, but he was a very high end RB1. So I have no problem.
Schedule. I think there are 2 running backs that I really don't care that they're run heavy, and it's Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry. Those are the only 2 guys I'm like, I give the green light on, regardless of their receiving game. And honestly, for what it's worth, if we want to, call a spade, Nick Chubb averaged 3.5 points in the receiving game last year alone. He had a lot of games where he had like 2 catches for 20 yards.
He has a sleepy 2 or 3 catch games.
He really was. I mean, he probably averaged like 1 catch for 20 yards or 2 catches for 15. Like, he had a lot of games like that. He's one of the guys I'm not really concerned about touchdown regression, though. I'm really not. 12 touchdowns in a 16 game season or 17 game season now. I mean, I'm really fine with that. He did 12 touchdowns in like 12 games. So I think the Browns are going to absolutely pound the ball next year with him, especially because, remember, again, the defense got a lot better. So if you were ever concerned about him being written out of the game script, that's not going to happen because the defense is going to always be able to keep them in games. They're not going to have to sling the ball a whole lot, and they're going to be able to feed them. One thing that you may not know, he only had 2 games over 20 carries. That kind of comes in hand to the injury and also Kareem Hunt being in the background, but I still love Nick Chubb. Honestly, I still think he's worth a late because he's being drafted, like it or not, he's being drafted as a high-end RB2. He's not even being drafted as an RB1. So if you're telling me right now that Nick Chubb would be my RB2, probably RB1. But like RB1, I still feel confident with that. First round, you go Travis Kelce. Second round, you go Nick Chubb. That's not too bad. So I like Nick Chubb a lot. I think he's worth the pick.
All right, well, those are all the players we had. We will get to the NFC side for the next podcast and talk about all the NFC players over there, which there's a lot of good players I want to talk about on the NFC side. But everyone keep in mind, we're coming out with the merch soon. We're still in the works, getting a few ideas. We're probably going to have about 5 different designs out there. But stay tuned for that.
Yep.
Anything else to say?
I'm so excited for the NFC part. Honestly, I think the NFC part might be better than the AFC part. I'm not going to lie. There are so many players that I'm high and low on the NFC part. So make sure you stay tuned for that because that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of other things. I mean, I guess just overall, individual page-wise, 440 Sports and Tailgate Podcast, we're going to have a ton of fantasy content coming out. 440 already beat me to the punch. I see on his page, he already had a lot of fantasy stuff coming out. I'm going to tag along pretty soon because, I mean, I don't know if a lot of you guys remember, but that's how I made my mark on TikTok, was doing a lot of fantasy stuff. So I'm going to get back to that. Probably going to be doing mock drafts, giving you guys the best advice we can. What I might do, and I'm freeballing this right now, and you can let me know if you want to or not. I might make like a spreadsheet of like all the players, rank them all, and might just like send them, like put on my TikTok, put out a link if you guys want to have it. So depends how bored I am on like a random Wednesday, if I want to do that or not. But that's probably something I might end up doing. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, stay tuned for the NFC part, probably in about 6 or 7 days after this one's posted.
Yep.
All right. We'll see you.